Deanston Drinker's Whiskey.
Nice. Hi, my name's Steve Dalby,
I'm Marijn Sommers.
and this is Whisky at Ease.
Chill.
Hey guys, welcome to Whisky at Ease. Hey Marijn!
Hey, buddy.
Hey, welcome to Whisky at Ease.
Thank you. It's
Well, we're
fun
gonna-
to be here.
Are we going to do the same as we did last time? We're going to bring a whiskey journey?
Yes.
Okay.
So, as you might remember from our first 3 episodes, we talked about going on a journey, and we introduced 3 different whiskies, and we kind of found out how they were connected to each other, and that's what our Whisky at Ease is all about. That we take you on that journey to connect those 3 together. So, what were those 3 whiskies?
The last 3 whiskies we tasted, we took us from the east side of Scotland to the west side of Scotland. We started off with the Tobermory, which I believe is in here somewhere. Hey,
Yeah,
you know,
on the Isle
that's
of
fine.
Mull.
On the Isle
Yeah.
of Mull. We then moved across to a Ledaig whiskey, which was from an independent bottle.
Ledaig.
Ledaig, Ledaig. Okay, so that's where we went to, and then we finished off with a
Benromach.
Benromach, thank you. That
Yes.
disappeared on my head. So we then went from the Benromach, and they were linked by Tobermory is where we started, and then they distilled the spirit for Ledaig, which was taken to an independent bottler in Elgin, and then that independent bottler bought a distillery, which had been a dream of theirs for many years, and they bought the Benromach distillery. And since then, actually, the same bottler has now just put plans in to build something called the Cairn, which is a brand new distillery on the side of a hillside in a natural part of Scotland. And wow, maybe get to go and try and visit that in the summer.
Yeah,
But
you,
yes, so
you
that was
showed me
cool.
the pictures. That is looking pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that such a traditional industry like whiskey that has been around for 400 or 500 years in some parts of Scotland is still creating new distilleries. And I think in the last 2 months I've read about 3 or 4 new distilleries being built. Some on Islay. There's a new peated whiskey on Islay been brought together by a bunch of entrepreneurs that said, hey, we want our own whiskey company, and away you go. And if we talk about new whiskey, there's the Cotswold here, which is a brand new distillery in the last 4 or 5 years. Then there's the English up here, which is another brand new distillery. So they are growing and bringing new flavors, which is great.
Yes,
But what
that
about-
means we are not gonna run out of material.
We're never going to run out of
Yes.
material. Hey Marijn, welcome to Journey 742.
Oh well, it works.
That's 743 whiskies we'll have tasted. No, times 3. 2,140 whiskies we'll have tasted.
Sure, yes, of course, yeah. All right, cool.
For you, our listeners, we will do this.
It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. All right.
So,
Journey.
journey number 2. In this journey, we are gonna start in the center of Scotland. We are gonna start in the Highlands, and that's gonna be this one. It's gonna be the Deanston, and we'll take the 12-year-old as a reference point because, of course, they're making lots of different whiskeys. So we'll take the 12-year-old as a starting point.
So we're going to focus on this one in this episode. So we'll
Yes.
taste this one, we'll give you some history on the distillery and this drink. So that's our first part of the journey.
Exactly. And then we're gonna travel throughout Scotland, and we are gonna land on a little island called Islay. And on Islay, they have this.
The weirdest distillery name, I think, in the business.
It's difficult to pronounce. It's the Bunnahabhain, but we'll just call it the Bunna
The
because
Bunna.
that's just easier. Once more, we'll take the 12-year-old as a reference point, together with the Deanston 12-year-old as well.
Cool.
And then the third step is not going to be in Scotland anymore. That is going to take us across the world into a country called Japan.
Okay, Japan.
Japan. And that brings us to the Kyo whiskey. And it's yeah, we've tasted this before. You might see that we've kind of tasted it before, and that's just brilliant. So
each of these whiskies has got a great story. So as we go through these 3 episodes on our journey number 2, we're going to tell you a bit about the history, but more importantly, we're going to tell you how they're linked, because our journey is not just about choosing 3 whiskies. It's about trying to give you a clue so that you can work out how this whiskey leads to this whiskey leads to this whiskey. That is what Whisky at Ease is all about.
welcome to our second journey, and let's dive in.
It's a 12-year-old whiskey, but the distillery is just traditional. They actually, if you look at them up online and look at their buildings, it's kind of, it's all rock and granite and been traditional. It's right next to the river. And they're playing catch up like a lot of distilleries. So it's very traditional in terms of what they do. They're on the side of the river Teith, and they just make really, really good whiskey. What's really interesting is that they take the water directly from the river, because water is key to whiskey. All right,
yes.
You need to have a good
yes.
whiskey source, and many, of course, different distilleries always say how water is the softest because it comes from the loch on the top of the mountain or something. Deanston say that their whiskey is soft because right from when they started over 100 years ago, they laid in a lade from the river that brings the water down to the distillery and actually powers the electricity that runs the whole distillery. So it's actually,
that is cool.
With green whiskey we're drinking here.
Ooh.
So this is not golden at all, it's green.
Okay.
But have a quick look. They do some really good whiskies as well. They're experimenting. They're trying to catch up with these new blends, these new distilleries. There's a whiskey that's actually finished in a craft beer barrel, which actually sounds cool. There's one that's finished in a vintage red wine cask, and I really quite fancy trying that one. And I think Scotland is still on my summer visit trip, so we'll see what we can do with that.
Yeah. Oh, you bastard!
But they also have something called the Deanston Dissennery, and it's actually a blend of malted blend whiskey from 4 different decades. So 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 10s, 20s, 2000s, nillies. Anyway, the new millennium.
Yes.
So that's cool. So as I said, they take their water from the river Teith. They still use it to power the electricity that actually powers the distillery, and they still make it by hand. So this is another people distillery where they don't rely too much on automation to make their whiskey. They actually use people to smell it, taste it, work out when it's ready, move it from the wash to the distillery. Distilled twice, and they take obviously the middle bit and recycle the top and the bottom as always do. So it's very traditional. Ian Macmillan's the master distiller, and he's created this 12-year-old. For me, it's a kind of gentleman's whiskey. It's pure Scottish. It's unchilled and unfiltered, so it's as natural as it can be. But Deanston Distillery, if you get a chance to go visit, highly recommend it. It looks really cool, so it's on my visit list. But it really is that traditional Scottish distillery and that very traditional Scottish whiskey. Ask me a question, I'll tell you. I know everything about Deanston now.
How many people work there?
73. No idea.
Yeah.
It's amazing what we don't know about these places.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But it really looks cool. I mean, you've seen the website as well as I have. The location and where it's at.
Yes. It looks brilliant. Yeah. It also looks like, as you said, like well-made buildings, but also, very well thought through, like proper craftsmanship and.
Yeah, I actually looked at it on Google Satellite on maps, and you can actually see where the water cuts in, and then it runs in a very straight line straight underneath the distillery. Obviously that's where the power turbines are that actually generate the electricity that create the beer, and then you can see the outflow into the river. The beer, yes, and the whiskey.
And the whiskey.
Well, I was actually thinking about water, because as you know, I spent some time working in the beer industry, even from an IT perspective. I also read as well, I was looking at some distilleries, that they actually have water plants to be able to create the right kind of water. So for a new brewery, it's important hey, we need the water that is very hard or very soft to make different kind of beers. But from a distillery perspective, where the conglomerates make different kinds of whiskey, sometimes they want the water softer or harder. So these new distilleries are actually putting water plants in, especially in places like Japan and those kinds of things, where the water is a little bit less. It's not clean or pure, but it's more industrialized. Yeah. So it's harder. So so the kind of water is important. So to actually be able to see it coming from the river, and one assumes that they filter it and clean it before they add it to the whiskey.
Of course, of course, yes.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. So there's the Deanston. So no bits in it.
No bits in it. All pure and clean. I like the bottle. No fuss. Just simple. I mean, you've got some whiskeys that are really trying to do all kinds of crazy things with a bottle. This is just a decent, good bottle.
I think it's great. I love the way it says here, unchilled and filtered exactly as it should be.
Yes.
And then it says, nothing added, but hard work and determination.
Exactly.
Let's find out whether that was successful. Let's taste it.
Let's do that. And for that, we need
Glasses.
All right, cool. So let's do a tasting.
Let's do a tasting. You pouring?
Yes.
Unchilled, filtered. At least this cork didn't break.
Yes, exactly.
This is the second bottle because the first one, when we opened it, the cork broke.
Which has nothing to do with quality, of course. It just happens.
It just happens. Yeah. It's the tree's fault.
Exactly.
All right. Neat.
All right.
It is everything a Scottish whiskey should be. Considering this time that we're actually on our journey, we're going to go to Japan, so we're going to be able to sort of have a real different taste. But this is absolutely Scottish.
Yes. And what I like about this Deanston is it's a drinker's whiskey. It's not something that you need to sniff and then sit down and contemplate for 15 minutes and then have another sniff and then go walk the dog while you think about it and then have all the impressions fall upon you. No, this is a drinker's whiskey. This is not a lot of fuss. It's just, as they said, well made, hard work, and just drink.
So I'm not allowed to smell it. I like smelling
my
whiskey.
No, of course you're...
I put my whiskey to my nose so many times. Yeah, I think last time we counted it.
We did, which was a staggering amount.
But the nose of a whiskey for me is just the most important part. It sort of really sets up what you're about to taste. And it's part of those three things that you get from a great whiskey. The nose, the taste, and then the finish. So.
Exactly. But they can also mislead you. And I think in the case of the Deanston, that is very well the case. Because what you smell and what you taste are two different things.
That's true. It smells very smooth.
It smells super smooth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's subtle, but it's not overbearing.
No, not at all. It's not a big nose. It's kind of a more toned down, but very nice, very good.
It is.
Awesome.
It sets it up for the taste.
Exactly. So we've got an amber color, got a smooth nose, very smooth nose, and then when we try it, we taste it.
It's harsher than it smells.
Yes.
But it is nice.
Definitely on the back of the tongue. There are lots of spices coming. Lots of salt, peppery.
Yes, it is.
Very peppery in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I had salt on the side of the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. But it still has that kind of hint of vanilla, the kind of fruit there. It's very subtle. It's not overbearing.
No,
so
it's not.
It's not lost any of that.
No, exactly. No.
But you are right. It is a drinker's whiskey. Mm-hmm. It's kind of not a warm fire, sit down, spend half an hour taking the whiskey. No. This is a whiskey to share with friends.
Exactly.
It's a gentleman's whiskey.
Exactly.
It's a whiskey you would drink in a Scottish bar, talking about what fish you caught today and how was the catch today.
Sitting together with friends and just put the bottle on the table and give everyone a dram or two or three. Yeah.
The finish is a little one-dimensional. It's not something that changes and develops as it moves on. But again, I think that's what you would get from a Scottish whiskey that is kind of everyday,
Yeah.
on the shelf,
Yeah.
ready to be drank.
And it's amazing how that amount of pepper and spice just builds up while you.
The pepper, especially on your second or third
Yes.
taste,
Yes.
then it's actually pleasant though.
It is. It's not. It's definitely not unpleasant. It's a very characteristic experience.
It's not like putting too much pepper in it.
No.
It actually builds on. It's a bit like chili. You know, a really good chili menu will slowly build up and warm through, and the pepper on the back of the throat of this whiskey, I think, is exactly the same. Well, sir, I think successful for your first journey that you've put together.
Yeah.
So starting off in Scotland, in the Highlands, with Deanston 12-year-old,
Exactly.
and I think it's time to get in the car.
Well, do you want to run through the chart once more?
We should actually.
So color, definitely amber. Definitely amber color. It's not golden.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of smoothness, we get that salt and pepper, but it's not kind of spicy or harsh, overly harsh anyway. So yeah, it's an 8. So I think from a smoothness perspective, it's an 8.
Yeah,
So
very
it's more
smooth
towards
nose, and then in the mouth it's got those
spicy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's cool. Maturation, not sweet, not sherry. It's a kind of 3 here. It's kind of oaky, salty end of the scale.
Yeah.
In terms
Which
of
is not a
maturation.
bad thing. I
No,
mean,
it's
it's
great.
not the lower number does not represent a bad quality or anything.
No, and that's part of our problem with this chart, I think, that we've put together here to be able to
Yeah,
judge
we
it.
should
need to
just
think
say
about
like
it.
left and right maybe or something like that.
Yeah, we'll work
okay.
on that one. We
Okay.
have more episodes. We're doing 700 and something.
Exactly, that's what we said. So fruitiness, I think around 6.
Yeah, not too much, not too little. There's enough there to make it interesting on the tongue, but there's not enough there to kind of go, wow, that is apples and plums and whatever. So it's good. It's good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not peaty at all.
It's not, although
It's not
that-
even a 0.5, so don't go there.
no, but I just want to say that the first time I drank this, I kind of mistaken that peppery notes for a little peatiness.
Yeah, no, I get
So it's kind of in the same region, but it doesn't have that smoky.
that. It's not smoke, it's
Smoky,
not barbecue. It's,
yeah, exactly.
It is pepper, as we
Yes.
said, that pepper builds, which is cool.
Yes.
And the finish is on the low side for me. It's quick, it's pleasant, but it doesn't go on and develop. So you're going to drink more of this quicker because
Yes.
it's a drinker's whiskey.
Exactly.
It's not something that you're going to sort of chill out and go, oh, I don't want to taste anymore because I can see it and I can feel it, and it's not that.
No,
That's not
exactly.
what it is. So I guess that's definitely a 3 in terms of the finish.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you for that, because the numbers are important, just so that you can compare, you know, whiskey's maturity from one to another as we go through these journeys. So definitely done. And as we stand here, you should see the numbers just here appearing.
Somewhere.
Good. Alrighty. So what's next?
Next, on episode 2 of journey number 2, we will go to the island of Islay, next to Jura, and we'll taste one of those really amazing whiskies that they make there.
Marijn's favourite place.
Exactly.
See you in episode 2.
Cheers.
Bye.